Hello everyone, welcome to session number 39. We'll continue reading of the play A Streetcar Named Desire, written by Tennessee Williams. In this session, we will focus on the last scene of the play, that is scene number 11. So this scene, since it is the last scene, it is very significant for the reason where we will come to know about what happens in the climax part of the play. So there are so many questions in the minds of the readers and the audience regarding what happens to Blanche, the protagonist of the play, whether her desire of seeking companionship with Mitch and for a better future, whether that dream and desire is going to be fulfilled, or is she going to be a tragic protagonist. This is what we will find out at the end. But before we proceed further, let us recall some important events of scene 10, because the penultimate scene, that is scene number 10, is also very significant for the fact that the very dreams and desires of Blanche are shattered by the act of rape committed by Stanley on Blanche. What you see at the end of scene number 10, that Blanche is physically overpowered by Stanley. So it is his act of asserting his power not only on her life and on her mind, but also on her body. A typical male patriarchal mindset to see a woman body as a field of battle and to occupy it and to have control over it. So here Stanley appears very much unapologetic, in the sense he doesn't have any repent for the sin or the kind of act he has committed, where he has raped Blanche without any remorse, without any regret. So how one should look at this act of rape committed by Stanley is very significant to the analysis of the play. So what we see at the end of scene 10, that her desire of companionship with Mitch is totally shattered because of Stanley. That is one important thing. On the other hand, Stanley has made it clear for Blanche that he is not at all going to leave Stella. So her another desire of seeking better future for herself and Stella is also shattered, because Stanley has completely controlled the life of Stella, and her being pregnant and she is about to deliver a baby, that is indicative of her commitment towards Stanley. So finally, what is the action of Stanley which would finally lead Blanche to a kind of tragic scenario which he has to face, where her desires are totally shattered, where we will come back again to the title of the play, A Streetcar Named Desire. So with so much of desire of a better future, Blanche has arrived at New Orleans to Elysian Park, but whether she will realize those dreams, whether those desires become true, that is what we have to see. But unfortunately, it appears to be a tragic end she has to face at the end of the play. So what we will do in this session, it will focus on scene number 11, the last scene. So the objective of the session is to understand the plot development and to look into the climax of the play in scene 11. And at the end of this session, students will be able to understand the major events, and also when we look into the climax of the play, there are so many questions to be discussed and debated. That is what students will understand at the end of this session. So now we are into scene 11. So the story shifts several weeks later, after the incident of Stanley raping Blanche, and we also come to know that in the beginning of scene 11 that Stella has given birth to a baby, and whatever dreams of Stanley to stay with Stella are totally realized. His world of a family where he controls everyone women, that too specifically on women, his control is very much asserted. He appears to be very much successful and life is very much normal for him. So he is again playing poker with his friends, and on the other hand, as usual, Eunice helping Stella in the kitchen, and she tells that men are behaving, like pigs or swine. So she is very much complaining about the way the men are behaving while playing poker. That is what we witness in the very beginning of scene 11. Okay, so while these things are going on, we could hear Blanche in the singing in the bathroom. This is very significant, as we have already discussed in our earlier analysis of earlier scenes, and also when we discussed about the themes and symbols. The act of bathing and her act of staying most of the time in bathroom is indicative of or symbolic of Blanche trying to forget her past. But in scene 11, we have to look at this event from a different perspective. So now when Blanche is taking bath, now it is not an act to forget her past, but this is her way of cleansing herself of Stanley's rape. So you see a kind of change. Now the symbolic significance of washing herself is different. It is not to wash away her sordid past, but to clean herself by this heinous act of Stanley physically raping her. So what we see here, that it becomes clear that it is the day, and there is one more important revelation which happens in scene 11. Because if you remember what happens at the end of scene 9 and gradually in scene 10 after the rape, we see that Blanche is going into a kind of depression and she is behaving hysterically, and also we see that she is descended into a kind of madness. So now she is being seen as a woman who has lost control over her mind. So before I proceed with scene 11, so let us take up this particular aspect, how Blanche is projected by Tennessee Williams as a female character in the play. On the other hand, how she is seen from other male counterparts, the characters in the play. So if you are familiar with the feminist approaches towards literature, we have one issue which has been a major part of discussion in feminist literary analysis, that in a literary work, many a times women are projected as if they are prone to madness. Okay, something which is related to irrationality. Women cannot think, they behave hysterically, they cannot decide things for themselves. They are exact opposite of what is rational, which men represent. So this is a major point of criticism in feminist literary analysis. So same issue can be raised here in this particular play, where Blanche again is seen as a woman who is prone to madness, who has descended into madness, whereas Stanley, in spite of the fact that he has committed that heinous crime, he appears to be very person who is rational, who is very clear in the act of taking decisions. This is something questionable. Okay, so it is revealed in the beginning of scene number 11 that it is the day the doctors from the mental asylum they came to take Blanche away, and Blanche has not been well since the rape has happened. And this act of rape is not something a kind of suspense for all other characters surrounding Blanche, because everyone is aware of it. And whereas Stella, in spite of knowing the fact that her husband Stanley has raped her sister Blanche, she tells to Eunice that Blanche's story is too wild to believe, which means she is not ready to believe it. She is unable to believe words of her sister. Or is it her real way of saying that she is unable to believe, or whether she is unwilling to believe it? This is the question. And Stella could not believe it, and she continues to lead her life with Stanley. So in spite of knowing the fact that her sister has been raped by Stanley, she decides to stay with him. What could be the reason? Again, Stanley stands as that center force, that symbol of desire which propels the actions of Stella. And now to add that she has delivered a baby where she has to believe most of the time that her sister was not raped by Stanley, rather than accepting the reality. So when she says that she could not believe it and she continues to live with Stanley, Eunice, her neighbor, she tells Stella not to believe it. That is only correct, no matter what, because life has to go on. So what is important for Stella here? Instead of protesting and standing with her sister, it is more important for her to not to believe what has happened, and she has to make sure that life has to go on. If she speaks against Stanley, the life will spoil. See, look at the way the patriarchy is portrayed, not just through male character, even through the female characters. That is what you can analyze in this part of scene number 11. Okay, so what happens later? As we know that you could hear, as audience, you could hear Blanche singing in the bathroom. She comes out fresh, yes, from the bath, and the polka music plays in the background. Okay, so by this time I hope you're all aware of the fact that polka music is symbolic of her sordid past, memories of her past. But this time she is unhinged. Okay, you don't see her that much disturbed. In spite of the polka music, she appears to be cheerful. Okay, and when she comes out here, she appears to be very kind of, she wants to hide herself from the eyes of men when she is going from bathroom to the living room. So if you look at this scene, it is totally contrasting to the earlier scene of playing poker for the first time, where in the earlier scene she wants men to notice her, but now she doesn't want anyone to see her. So you see a shift in the way she has her approach towards to be identified and recognized by the male gaze. Okay, so the women are in the bedroom while the men play poker. Okay, and everything is happening as if life has to go on, nothing has changed in their lives. It is only with Blanche a new thing is happening, that today is the day she has to leave Kowalski apartment. Her dreams are going to be shattered completely. She has to be taken to the mental asylum. Okay, and when she comes out of the bathroom, Stella and Eunice, they compliment her, and she appreciates her. They appreciate her beauty. And Blanche continues to make strange, ungrounded comments. She is speaking in a very low tone, where she still thinks that her admirer Shep Huntleg would come and take her to a vacation. So this is what she is thinking. So her expectation is that today she is getting ready, and Stella, her own sister, is preparing her clothes for her journey. She feels that she thinks that she will be taken for a vacation by his admirer. She is still not aware of the fact what is going to happen with her. So Mitch, the one who had a very short-lived companionship with Blanche and then rejected her after coming to know about her sordid past and making a very harsh comment that she is not clean enough. So he appears to be very much unnerved by Blanche's madness. Okay, so he has no feelings for her, and he is not at all affected by what is happening with Blanche. Okay, so Blanche, she finds something strange at this point of the play, and she demands to know what is going on. But the women, Eunice and Stella, they assure her that everything is fine, there is nothing to worry, and they tell her that she is going to go on a vacation. And at this point, Blanche speaks dreamingly about the sea and living by the ocean till she dies. So there is still that desire is not diminished in her mind. So she still has that hope that she will have an admirer, she will have a male companion with a wonderful future, where she says that she wants to live by the sea and living by the ocean till she dies. Okay, This is her dream, this is her desire. She has not given up yet, but her destination, her destiny actually is already determined by all other characters in the play. That too, specifically, we have to look into the way Stanley has created this situation for Blanche. Okay, so when Blanche is still thinking that she will be taken on a vacation, for her disappointment, as audience we already know that this is the day she will be taken to the asylum, as decided, the doctor and the nurse or the matron, they arrive. So Blanche, when she comes to know that someone has arrived, she is the one, she goes out to greet them, thinking that it is Shep who has come to take her and to give her a beautiful life. Look at the expectations of Blanche. She still has that hope left. Even in the last part of the play, you see the last kindle of desire which is still there in her mind. But unfortunately, it is not Shep who had come there. Blanche sees the doctor and the nurse, and she retreats, she runs back to the apartment saying that she has forgotten something. So now she comes to know that something very strange is happening with her. She will be taken to the asylum because she is seen as a woman who has been descended into madness. She has lost control over her nerves. Okay, so the act of rape by Stanley is justified by projecting Blanche as mad at the end of the play. It's a very important aspect of this play where Williams is very strongly condemning this patriarchal mindset, how women can most of the time is a victim for this male desire, and how the act itself is justified, and again the woman is made a prey for the predatory attitude of men. Okay, so what happens that she comes back to the apartment saying that she has forgotten something. So at this point, on the stage, the polka music plays in the background along with animal noises. The same kind of animal forest kind of jungle kind of atmosphere is again created, which we have already seen in scene number 10. At the end of scene 10, when Stanley rapes Blanche, the same animal noises are created, and same kind of jungle like atmosphere is created even at this point of scene number 11. Okay, so what is the significance of these jungle beats and shadows? That now she is like an animal in the jungle who has been trapped here. So the act of trapping is very significant with the music and the shadows and the jungle like environment, okay, with animal noises, where she is being trapped like a animal in the jungle. And this trap is led by none other than Stanley, who stands symbolic of this patriarchal society. Okay, she has been trapped by society and by Stanley. So animal like jungle like atmosphere is created here, and weed shadow stands around the walls, and she grabs a chair in defense, and the nurse goes to capture her. So she is still defending herself. She still feels that she can defend herself, but she has to accept her fate. On the other hand, Stella, who is witnessing all these things, she can't bear to watch Blanche struggling, whereas Eunice comforts her, telling her not to go inside, and she somehow manages to Stella to keep quiet. The moment Stella appears to be excited and trying to be protective of her sister, Eunice is the one who takes the baby and hands it over to Stella, so that she realizes her reality, that she has a baby now. She has to stay with Stanley, not to take a stand with Blanche. So the men call for the doctor, and as Blanche continues to fight the nurse, it is Mitch who tries to show some protest, but Stanley, he jumps and he helps the nurse in holding Blanche and somehow managing her to take out of the apartment, and finally the nurse succeeded in pinning Blanche and taking her outside. So finally Blanche is taken out of that Kowalski apartment. This act is very significant. She has been taken like a animal, the animal which has been trapped. Okay, so this is how the act of taking her out is significant, because she has entered that Kowalski apartment with so much of desire that fuel which propelled the engine of this Kowalski apartment, the desire has been taken out. She has been taken out of the apartment, and the doctor enters, and Blanche, she pleads, she requests in front of him, and finally when she is released by the nurse, Blanche delivers her famous line at the end of the play, where she says, whoever you are, I have always depended on the kindness of the stranger. This is a very significant and a strong statement made by Blanche at the end of the play, where she makes it clear, whoever you are, is speaking to the men in the society, the patriarchal society. I have always depended on the kindness of a stranger. This has been the story of my life. How I have spent my life, most of the time it is dependent on the kindness of the strangers. And we all know what has happened to her in the past. Her husband committing suicide, her encounters with the strangers, her the event of where she has been used by drunken soldiers in the army camp. It is full of encounters with strangers. Her life is full of encounters with strangers. So she says, whoever you are, I have always depended on the kindness of the stranger. So as Blanche is led out like a blind woman, Stella, she cries out her name by sobbing. Okay, so it is Stella who cries, who shouts name of Blanche repeatedly. If you remember in the beginning of the play, in one of the scenes, it is Blanche who calls out in the very beginning scene, when Blanche meets Stella for the first time, she calls her name thrice, Stella, Stella, Stella. So here it is the turn of Stella to call Blanche several times, but we don't see any reaction shown by Blanche, and Stella cries out her name and she starts sobbing. And Blanche, she walks by Stella and she is not responding to her, she says nothing. Whereas on the other hand, Eunice, she gives Stella her baby, and Stella continues to sob. Okay, so it is the act of Eunice handing over baby to Stella is to make her realize that her reality is to stay with Stanley, not to sympathize with Blanche. Okay, so Stella comes out, and in the kitchen, what is happening at the end of the play, that silent resumes, and we see the men playing the card, and it is Steve who deals a new hand in the play, and it is indicative, the poker game at the end of the play, where men are busy and silence in the kitchen, and men are busy playing the poker as if everything is normal, in spite of the fact that Blanche has been taken to the asylum. That is the suggestive of the fact that life must go on for all these characters in the play. So this is the last scene of the play, where we see Blanche has been termed as a woman who is descended into madness, and she has been taken into an asylum, and for other characters nothing changes. Life goes on and they get busy in their day-to-day business. Okay, so this is the end of the play, A Streetcar Named Desire. So what I have done, that I tried to made a scene by scene analysis of the play. So it's an elaborate analysis of the entire play. So what I suggest at the end is to read the original play, so that you can come up with new insights and your own interpretation of the play. Okay, that is what I suggest to all the students. Okay, so please make sure that you read the original play and then listen to these video lectures. Thank you.